How's it going, guys? Steve here in Global Comics again. I'm going to go over the Night 2 Heritage Auction. I uploaded the video for Night 1 a couple days ago. So here we go, rolling right into it. We've got the ASM 129 Mexican edition. There are a few different Mexican editions. This is, I think, one of the later ones, and you got the Mac, which I believe is the earliest one, and then this one. And I'm sure there's been a few reprints over the years with kind of the facsimiles that they've done, but this one, I didn't realize that they put this as Marvel Tales 106. I thought this would have been ASM 129 Mexican edition, reprinting the Mac edition. But I guess because of the red background, they put this as a Marvel Tales 106. I'm assuming that Marvel Tales 106 came out prior to 1982, and that's why they did this. Otherwise, I'm not really sure why they would call it that. But either way, $280. Not a great sale, not a terrible sale, not a particularly hard book to find. One just popped up on eBay today, I think, for $99. But even back when I first started collecting foreigns, probably almost a decade ago, these were still $50-$60 books directly from Mexico. So $280, seems like a kind of right about probably where it should be. And then we got a Star Wars Middle Eastern. I'm not sure if there's Lebanese. It looks Lebanese, maybe Egyptian, but this is from 1982, sold for $561. Star Wars, is always popular. It's sets to build. Star Wars collectors are crazy. They need to have everything. So $561, honestly, a little bit lower than I expected, just because of how hard some of these Lebanese and Middle Eastern books are to get. But it is a 2.5, so it looks like it presents pretty well. So I'm not really sure why the grade is so low, but $561 seemed a little bit low to me. All right, this one was kind of a weird one. Blue Label 6.5 Mystic, but then it's restored. I'm not really sure. I didn't really realize that you could get a Blue Label with restoration. Maybe it's kind of like an older thing. I'm not sure. Maybe they allowed that with older slabs. There's a specific way to go about getting it. But yeah, this one's restored 6.5, and I think the price kind of reflected that. $341 seemed a little bit low for a 6.5, and then when you dig into it, you realize that it has restoration. So it makes a little bit more sense. But these Mystics from England aren't the easiest books to find. This is one I don't own. I had been looked for one over the years, but just never pulled the trigger on one. But $341 seems pretty cheap, but if you don't mind a restored book. I just included this one just because it was a pretty big sale, $1,159. I have no idea what this even is, and it's from 1991, so I'm assuming it's kind of an early Ninja Turtles Chinese book, or is it Chinese? Yeah, I'm not really sure even. I don't know anything about these books, but it was a big sale. Someone out there knows about it. I just included it because I thought it was interesting. All right, we've got Brazil. This was a pretty big sale, $976. I wasn't really sure why it sold so high. It said it was the first appearance of Thandar, I think, or something like that. I'm not really sure. I don't know anything about Golden Age comics, or don't know much about Golden Age comics, but this one definitely went higher than a lot of the other Globo comics that sold from Brazil, so I just included it just because I thought it was interesting. All right, another one, Superman, kind of a classic Golden Age cover, him holding Hitler. This one was pretty rough shape. It's a 0.5 and restored, but still sold for $1,159. So this is, kind of one of those classic, classic covers that Brazil was, Brazil put out on the market all the way back in 1943. So, pretty cool piece of history there. Price-wise, for a 0.5 restored, I think it did pretty good. I wouldn't have probably expected it to go as high as it did, so it seems like a pretty good sale. This one, a classic Batman cover from Brazil. This one sold for $488, and I was kind of thinking that seemed a little low for kind of a classic Batman cover. And I'm not sure if this is the first appearance of the Batmobile or not. I don't think so. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. But then I realized that this is the back cover, so I'm not sure what's on the front cover. But you can see that's the back of the slab there. So maybe that's kind of had part of the reason why it didn't sell higher than it did is that it's on the back cover and it's slabbed in a way that you can't really enjoy it from the front. All right, another one of these Brazilian Spider-Man comics. I'm noticing on night one of this auction, they had all the American titles, and night two they went all with the titles that were, I guess they're just doing the titles that are on the slab, so this must be an older slab, because normally they correlate the title for the auction to the American edition of the comic, but all of these seem to be so far pretty much all with the native title. So here we have Ohimim Aranha 1 from Brazil, Spider-Man 1 signed by Stan Lee. Sold for $823. It's restored 2.0. So the other ones sold for $4,000 the other night, but it was 5.5. So this one, I don't know. It's restored, but it's got a Stan Lee signature. There's probably maybe one or two examples of this book signed by Stan Lee. I think Sky Ott was getting a lot of his stuff signed by Stan while he was still alive. A lot of these big foreign keys. So I doubt there's very many of them, but there might be a couple. But to me, very cool piece of history. There aren't going to be any other foreign, even if foreigns continue to gain in popularity, the number of signed copies by Stan Lee is not going to increase. So, I think it's cool to have at least one big foreign grail that's signed by, the guy that kind of started it all. So $823, in my opinion, seems a little low. I would have thought if the other one sold for $4,000, this one I thought would have maybe gone over $1,000, but it is lower grade, it is restored, but it does have that signature. So, all right, so here we are. Now we're back into the American titles. Silver Surfer 4, Brazilian edition. Not a really easy book to find. It's not super hard, but it's just one of those that you didn't see pop up too often. And this one sold at 6.0 for $89, which seemed pretty cheap. It's you definitely couldn't probably pull one out of Brazil for that cheap, and definitely probably not in that condition. So yeah, kind of a low sale there. Not really a key, more of just a key cover, not really a key storyline or anything too crazy. No first appearances or anything in this, but still just a very classic cover. Sticking with the Silver Surfer, we've got the 7.0 Silver Surfer 3, sold for $170, which seemed pretty cheap. First appearance of what's his name? I'm just blanking on it, but I think he's supposed to be, or he was in the end credits of Ironheart. After all the speculation about whether he was coming to the MCU or not. Mephisto. I don't know why I was blanking on it, but yeah. So, hopefully he'll make more of an appearance in some other Marvel movies or shows. They got, Sacha Baron Cohen, I think is his name, playing him, Borat. So we'll see what happens with that. But 170 seemed pretty low. 7.0 for Brazil from 1970. That's, going to be pretty tough to beat. So that was a pretty low sale there. And so the Brazilian, which is of this Silver Surfer 4, sold for 80 something, and this one from France, which to me is way more common, sold for 100. So it's kind of weird that this one sold higher in the same, only $10, but still same grade. But these you could just find all day long on eBay France. I just remember I at one point stopped buying them because I had like a stack of them I had to sell through. But yeah, I don't know how it is anymore on eBay France. I'm sure it's pretty picked clean by this point, after foreigns have definitely kind of increased in attention and popularity. But yeah, back in the day, this was an extremely easy book to find, so it's kind of surprising to me that this one went higher than the Brazilian edition, even if not by much. All right, so the first non-canon, this one sold for $305.40 from Mexico. I think the one bad thing about this one is there's, as far as I can tell, Spider-Man's nowhere on the cover. But if I remember correctly, I feel like this is one of the very first non-canon covers that they did. At least I know this bad guy, he was featured on the first non-canon cover. And I think the first issue had a non-canon cover, but the interior story was actually an American storyline that they translated. And then after that is when they actually started the non-canon interior stories as well, not just the cover. But 305, seemed like a good sale to me for kind of a not big non-canon cover. These kind of fluctuate all over the place, but yeah, this a while back you probably could have found for $100 maybe, raw. But yeah, $300 seemed like a pretty good sale to me. This one kind of confused me. I don't understand why this one went quite as high as it did. 976, 60. It's pretty, a very respectable grade for a 1972 Mexican comic, but really not one of the better covers. There's a girl on there, but not much of her. You can see her leg there, and not the best Spider-Man pose either. But 976, so that's, to me, was a very good sale. That went much higher than I would have expected. I would have expected, closer to about this price, maybe a little higher because of the grade. Another one, 976, 70, so high grade, but still not the best cover. Kind of some mad scientist stuff going on there. Non-canon, 976 seemed, higher than I would expect it again. And same thing, 793. I kind of always like this cover. At least it has a girl on the cover, but not much Spider-Man. He's just up there flying through the air in the title, not really doing much. I don't know if he's even really part of the cover or part of the title, but either way, 793. Another one went higher than I would have expected. So a good sale for the seller. And then for some reason, the prices dropped. So this one I actually think is a better cover. You got the couple girls on the cover, Spider-Man actually doing something cool, and he's flying up there in the title. But this one only went for $192, which seemed, a little cheaper than the other ones for sure. And that pink cover is pretty tough to find in clean condition. Like typically these have stains and are kind of rough. So this one presents pretty nicely. Another one, $292. This one was lower price, higher grade. Not the best cover. Not really even sure what's going on there. But yeah, $292. This one was surprising to me. I don't know much about Star Trek comics. I know this is Star Trek #1 from Brazil. But 2,684, that seems very high. I don't know if I've really ever seen a Star Trek comic sell that high before. I know there's a few guys that are building this set and are super into Star Trek. Those was never my thing. I was born in 1984, so yeah. My thing growing up was definitely Star Wars more so than Star Trek, and even then, it was more when it got all remastered and re-released. But yeah, definitely a high sale. So someone was definitely looking for this and was willing to, or a couple people must have been willing to put up some money for it to go that high. All right, this kind of infamous book in the foreign collecting, marketplace, Strange Tales 109. So this includes the first appearance of Doctor Strange in it, but this is the Yafa Australian edition. They didn't use the cover, so it's just an interior story. And there was a foreign seller that was claiming this was going to be the next wedding issue. And he had it priced on eBay for $20,000. And to me, it was just kind of a joke. It seemed ridiculous that this horrible, ugly cover was going to sell for that much. But in the end, whatever. Everyone can have an opinion, and use whatever tactics they want to sell things. I'd rather be straight up with people and not try and blow smoke up their ass and tell them something's worth a ton of money when anyone that knows anything in the foreign collecting realm knows that's not a $20,000 book. But whatever. So here we go. 3.5 sold for $292. So yep, to me that even seemed high for. Yes, it's an interior key, but nobody really collects. Some people do collect interior keys, but majority of people are more interested in the covers. So if this would have had, the first appearance or the Strange Tales, Doctor Strange cover on it, then we've been talking something different. But this is not. This is a not particularly great cover with a good but it has a good interior story. So I would have expected it to sell for less, but definitely not a $20,000 book. We've got Spider-Man from the UK, kind of a real cool variant of that cover with the sideways. It's a magazine size and it's sideways, so it was meant to be read kind of like on its side, but it was big. And it only had, I believe these, if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at mine in a while, but I think these only had one staple. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, 219 seemed a little bit low. I thought that would have gone higher in that grade. Books from the UK, not particularly, hard to find in decent condition, especially from 1976. But, with the bigger size, magazine size, these tend to be pretty beat up. So 7.0, a little surprising. It didn't go a little bit higher, and for people that don't know a lot about foreign books, it's just kind of a cool format with it sideways like that. I think it is. Maybe that's a turnoff for some people, but I think it's pretty cool. All right, this was another real big sale, 9.8, Tales of Suspense 39, German edition. This one, a lot of guys were talking about kind of in the Instagram chat about they thought it went really high. But I don't know, in my mind, I thought this seemed pretty good, 4,000, 9.8. That's crazy for a book from 1975. And even though German books can be found in pretty high grade condition, and they press really easy because they have a newsprint cover, like the whole book is all newsprint, so it's not like a glossy cover. So they press well, easy to make them look good, but still 9.8 is pretty wild for a book that old, especially a foreign comic. So I think it was deserving of the price. Iron Man, it's one day, maybe in 20-30 years, all these kids that grew up on the Marvel movies, are going to look back and then they're going to really want a Tales of Suspense, because Iron Man was the guy, the main guy in all these movies. So I feel like it's going to continue to have demand. And German edition, while not the hardest to find, any foreign comic in a 9.8 from that era should be worth something. 4,000, yeah, that's high. Maybe a little higher, but than I would have expected, but still not too far off. 9.2 Ultimate Fallout Italian edition. I just included this because I was actually surprised this one went as high as it did, 341. I feel like these Ultimate Fallouts, have totally crashed out. The demand and the market for Ultimate Fallout 4 is just not there, even though Miles is a great character. I'm sure we're going to see him sooner than later live action in the movies. So this one, I was surprised that it went to 341. I thought it would have probably gone for 100, maybe 150. So that's good. It's the variant cover, which is the U.S. version at one point I think sold for like $25,000 or more. So having these foreign editions with that variant cover is pretty sweet to own a physical comic from around the same time with that variant cover. So 341, higher than I expected, but happy to see it, because I don't know if I have a 9. I have a high grade one of the Italian. I don't know if it's a 9.6. I don't think it's a 9.8, but it was pretty. I was pretty happy when I got it back. All right, and 5.5 Newton from Australia, X-Men 1. $9.76. So it didn't go quite as crazy as the Avengers did the other night, which I think sold for what, 1,400. This one went for $976, which is still very respectable. And there was a brief, like a year, where Newtons were just kind of like going off the Richter. Almost every number one issue was selling on eBay for close to $800 to $1,000 slabbed, and then they just completely dropped off. Like all of a sudden, number ones were selling for $300-$400 with the posters. So this kind of brings it back to what it was before. So Newtons are making a comeback, but you can't hate on the Newtons with those crazy recolors that they did. And I don't know why Magneto's helmet and gloves are yellow and Angel's yellow costume. Beast is brown for some reason. I don't know. They just did some crazy things with the Newton comics, and that's why they're my favorite. They're one of my favorite comics to collect. 292, X-Men 94, the Mexican edition, Novedades, from 1988. This comic was probably one of the very first foreign comics I ever bought. It was when I was getting kind of back into comics, and I was like, oh man, I want to own some of these key comics, but I just can't afford them. Back then, probably this comic, the U.S. edition, was probably $100 on eBay, and I saw the Novedades. It's just sitting on eBay for like $15. I was like, I'll buy this Mexican edition. Why not? Just be kind of a cool little piece to own. And then things kind of just spiraled from there, and that's how I kind of got into foreign comics. Once I started doing some research and learning more about them and seeing how much of a variety of cool things there were, made me really want to start collecting more of them. So yeah, 292 seemed, I don't know, I guess right about where I would expect. It's not like a super hard book to find from 1988, but it is, in a decent condition. But yeah, to me that seems about right. All right, so this is Hulk 181, Mighty World of Marvel 198 from the UK, 4.5. I'm a little surprised this one didn't go higher at auction. It's magazine sized, but if you wanted the full Wolverine 181 storyline, it's spread out through like 3 or 4 different Mighty World of Marvel comics in the from the UK. So this is the one that had the cover, and it has like I think this has the original Hulk face that was later edited for the US version, but in this version they just used the original art. They didn't use the modified art. So kind of a cool little piece of Marvel history there. And 268 seemed a little low. All right, so then we go to the biggest sale of the night. Hombre Araña 128 from La Prensa, the Mexican wedding issue, kind of one of the most famous foreign comics. So this one's kind of been all over the place. I remember when I first started collecting, seeing a couple different ones sell for under $1,000, and then it was like $2,000, and then $5,000, and then everything kind of changed. I think there was one that sold for like $15,000, and then Josh with International Comics sold one on eBay for $30,000, and that kind of like was a controversial thing because another comic seller that sold foreign was claiming it was a fake sale and blah blah blah, and it just caused a lot of drama in the foreign comic community. But you can't really deny this. I mean, $31,720 for an 8.0, which is not the highest grade. There's 2 9.0s or 9.2s, I think. I think John Z owns one of them still, but yeah, crazy price, crazy comic. This is I think I just checked the census, and there's maybe 12 on the census. Maybe it was more. But you would think after all these big sales over the years, a lot more of these would have come out of the woodwork, and they're not. So, I think that we're going to continue probably to see this comic continue to rise in price as the demand increases and as the awareness of foreign comics increase, and it's just the it's just a classic cover, and it's a storyline that we never got in the U.S. And I think it's deserving of the price. And I never would have thought 10 years ago a foreign comic would sell for $31,000, but here we are. I'm not gonna complain about it. If you wanted this comic before and you weren't planning to spend a lot of money, good luck. It's probably going to be pretty much impossible to get one for cheap, and it's already been impossible to get one for cheap. But I think I got my copy. It's kind of a long story. I won't really get into it, but it ended up being, I sent it to CGC. The centerfold was missing, so it ended up coming back as qualified. But honestly, I'm just happy to have it. For the amount of money I put into it, I thought I was maybe a little crazy when I did it, and was bummed when it came back qualified. But at this point, I'm just happy to have this book in my collection, because I think hopefully it can only keep going up from here. But yeah, classic book, and this is definitely still the big dog for the foreign comic collectors. And I'm pretty sure that's all I got. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know your opinions, if you agree, disagree, and hopefully this video, was entertaining and not just me talking to myself. All right, have a good night. Bye.